Hello, I'm Professor Lieu. Welcome to our live stream. Today we are doing a draw along on how to draw hair in charcoal, and this is actually part 2 of another video that we started earlier before. If you would like to grow as an artist and you can't afford an art class, we've got everything you need here at Art Prof: critiques, tutorials, and professional development. I highly recommend that you guys draw along with me. You can use any media you want, and I would love to see what you guys create. Please post it in the Art Prof Discord in the Art Alongs channel. And if you guys would like to draw from the same photos, the link to the reference photos, that is in the video description below, so you guys can check that out. And in case you guys missed it, we actually did this drawing in the last video to get started, and then we tried to start with Timothy, but Timothy needs a lot more work, and so he's going to get a bit more treatment today. And if you guys missed that video, this is the video, so you guys can take a look at that. And actually, it's really good timing because we did this stream yesterday about the elements of art, focusing on value. So I think in today's stream, we're really going to have an opportunity to talk about that in greater depth. As you guys will notice, the reference photo that I have on the left, you'll notice that last time I had a color photo, I was so inspired by that value stream that I thought, you know what, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change it to a grayscale version. So actually I won't be distracted by the colors. So that's something you guys can definitely take advantage of. If you know you're not going to do the drawing in color, you might as well just desaturate it in Photoshop. His facial features are bothering me so much that even though this is supposed to be a stream about hair, I can't leave this alone, guys. It's going to drive me crazy if I don't do at least just a little bit of work so the eyes are not so strange and mushy. I think probably the part that needs the most work for me right now is the lip. So actually, let's spend a little bit of time on the lip because, oh man, I'm sorry, Timothy, your lip is really wonky in my drawing. Tell me in the chat how many of you guys are going to start a new drawing today, and how many of you guys are maybe going to use the same drawings that you had last time. It's totally up to you guys. However you want to do it is fine with me, because sometimes there are advantages of just starting fresh, but sometimes you want to have that opportunity to really bring something to a fuller finish. I am not warmed up, and so if you haven't noticed yet, I'm taking it real slow, and I'm drawing way more tightly than I should be, but it's okay to do that now and then. I mean, I like working in an energetic way and to think gesturally about things, but maybe it's because it's the holidays. I just feel a little slow today. And that's fine. I think you guys can play it by ear, see how things go. You don't always have to draw with a crazy amount of energy. Now, probably, I suspect I'm going to regret it in about a half an hour because I'm probably going to get super tight and whatever. Let's just do this because I feel like I just really want to tighten up on some of these spots in the eyes that I just did not even remotely get a chance to address last time. So we're doing some picky charcoal pencil work. Oh, geez, he looks like Bambi. That is not a good look for him. Crap. Ugh. Okay, let's shrink those eyes. Those were a little bit, what's the word? They were a little Disneyified for me. So let's just take a step back and see what we can do. See, I probably am seriously regretting it. Now he looks like he's wearing mascara, which he might be. I mean, sometimes if you're on the red carpet and you want to shine like a star, you probably have to put on makeup in funny ways that doesn't seem normal, but I suppose lots of stage actors have to do that. People who you wouldn't think need mascara need mascara. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I will be getting to your questions and your comments in the chat, but I am no good at multitasking. So what I will do is trade off between reading the chat and drawing. So if you guys have questions that you want to ask me, just type them into the chat. And when I take a break to look at the chat, I'll scroll up and go through all your questions and comments. So please feel free to do that. Oh, geez, he looks all, well, I guess he sort of is making this expression, this like, I'm so cute. I feel like that's what he's saying to me right now. He's got those like bedroom eyes. They probably train you to do that. Although, I don't know, maybe some people just naturally have that. You know who has that big time is Jessica Chastain. I was watching SNL the other day with one of my kids. One of my kids is really obsessed with that Chad character on SNL. And there was a Chad episode with Jessica Chastain, and she definitely has those bedroom eyes for sure. So I don't know, maybe you're just born with that. Who knows? All right. Now here's where it gets tricky, because you can see I've already made a little bit of a mess of the drawing, and I've smudged quite a bit, and that will happen. That's just part of the process. But you can see now I'm holding my pencil in a different way. Like before I was resting it. I'm not doing that anymore because actually I really messed up his cheekbone. So let's bring that back. But you should expect that, I think, with charcoal, to put things down, have them wipe away, and then have to put them back. It does help, I think, to switch to charcoal pencil, because while you can erase charcoal pencil, it's pretty hard to erase. Like a lot of the stuff that was on the face, that was all Vine charcoal. And so a lot of that disappeared extremely fast. With charcoal pencil, it's just a little bit more solid. And so the charcoal pencil can really be a lifesaver when you get to a point where, yeah, you don't want things to rub away. In the beginning, I didn't care so much. All right, that looks a little bit less weird. I'm not happy with it. I just want the eyes to get to a point where it's just not embarrassing. That's all. I just want to not be totally humiliated. Maybe that's just the goal. Just minimize the embarrassment, right? You know, I bet his eyebrows are plucked. What do you guys think? Do you think he plucks his eyebrows? Plucking your eyebrows hurts. Who here has plucked their eyebrows? I had them plucked once when I got married, and it was only because the hairdresser sort of talked me into it. But afterwards, I was like, why do people do this to themselves? This really freaking hurts, much less pay somebody to do it. It's like, ow, that really hurts. Although, I don't know. It's fine. You know, I don't judge anybody for doing that. I'm just saying I wouldn't want to do that all the time because, wow, that hurt. That did not feel good. What I'm doing right now is I'm lifting just a little bit of gray out of the pupils. I know it's a minor thing, but I think the issue with the pupils for a lot of people is they just color them in. And you can't do that because the pupils are not flat black. There's some black, but I'm also lifting out just a little bit of this. Okay, that's a little bit better. Yeah, I know his head is not wide enough, but whatever. I mean, the point of this drawing is a lot more about the hair. And I do definitely want to get to Angela Bassett's dreadlocks today. So I'm really sorry, Timothy. Your face just, it's not going to get the full treatment because I'm sorry, Angela's dreads. I can't miss out on that opportunity to draw her dreadlocks. They're just, oh, so good. Okay, I'm just going to soften the mandible here because I feel like this got a little bit too dramatic. He's starting to look a little creepy. I mean, he does look a little bit like the Joker. Okay, let me just take a quick break and see what you guys are all saying in the chat and tell me if you guys are drawing along. 10,000 Crows says that change in the lip already made a huge difference. It's minor. And you guys will find that the mouth and most facial features are like that, where just the tiniest little thing can really change things. I feel that's not so much the case, I think, with other parts of the body. I think if you're drawing a leg and, okay, something's a little bit wonky, people don't notice it very much. But I feel like with a face, just moving the eye 1 millimeter, it's hugely impactful. So that's the thing about it. It's almost like very high impact for extremely minimal change. That is a big difference in the face that I think you will not see so much in other parts of the body. And again, I'm going to try not to fuss on his face too much because this is supposed to be a hair drawing tutorial. We should actually talk about that. And let's see what else people are saying. Ernesto is saying, what kind of eraser are you using? Okay, well, I have 3 different kinds of erasers. So the first eraser that I use, this is a Mars white plastic eraser. I mean, it's not white right now, but it used to be. And I like these because they're very bold and strong. They're great if you want to just knock through a big area of charcoal. And then the eraser stick that I have here, this is wonderful. It's like an eraser pencil. And I really like this particular brand. It's made by Generals. And if you guys want information about the art supplies, I do have links in the video description below, so you guys can find that. And then we have our trusty kneaded eraser, which is awesome. I feel like I'm one of those guys in the restaurants that makes those hand-pulled noodles. Have you guys ever seen that? It's incredible. I saw it for the first time when I was in Montreal. They make noodles just by pulling them like this, and they're amazingly thin. So yeah, I like those 3 erasers because they each have a special talent. And I think really playing off of that in your process is really, really helpful. Okay, Soy Tainley says, I'm feeling now that we will need a tutorial on ears. You know what? We need a tutorial on everything. We need a tutorial on facial hair. We need one on eyebrows. We're going to do one on noses. That's just the face. Like, we haven't even gotten to the feet and all these other parts, but we will get there. And actually in January, we are going to do some videos that talk about muscles, because I know a lot of people are itching to get that information. Pineapple says, do you have any tips on starting with charcoal? I've never worked with it, and it seems so fun to work with. It is. It's super fun. My suggestion is make sure you get the wide range of supplies, because the other supplies that I'm using is I have compressed charcoal, which is really, really dark, as in Tartarus, Hades, underworld dark. It's that dark. And then you also have vine charcoal, which is not dark at all. It's very flaky and light and very gray. And then I also have charcoal pencils, because honestly, the reason why a lot of people struggle with charcoal is because they just don't have all the tools, and they're not using good paper. Like this paper I have here, this is charcoal paper. And if you look at it up close, I'll post it in the Discord later, you can see there's a texture to it, which I think is very beautiful. Some people don't like texture on their paper. It really depends. But this type of paper, it grips the charcoal a lot better. And so just getting all the good tools, that already is going to give you a really big leg up, because I find a lot of people, when they use charcoal, they're only using vine charcoal, or they're only using compressed charcoal. And you end up with major issues because it's hard to get that range of different marks that you can get. All right, Carrie Ann, 2 steps ahead of me. I've started Angela. And you guys will notice in that folder with the reference photos, I have the color version of Angela, and I also have the black and white version. It's up to you guys, whatever you want. But my feeling is that unless there's a really compelling reason why you need to see the reference photo in color, why not? I do this all the time. Like when I work on projects, if I know that I'm not going to be using any color, it's like, why even bother dealing with that in the reference photo stage. Okay, now he looks a little like a creep, but that's all right. Okay, let's do the hair, you guys. I need to just stop. Okay, so I think what I want to do, I want to squint for one thing. I know this is not exactly thrilling video footage, but you have to spend time really looking and creating some type of plan. And what I'm seeing already is that I really underestimated how much hair is back here. So that's what I like to start with when I come back to a drawing and I haven't been looking at it for a long time. I like to just reevaluate, because if there's anything I really want to change, it really should be something that you do fairly soon. You don't want to discover this stuff later on. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually noticing that these curls that come up, these are way longer than I had them. So I'm going to pull these out more, and there's sort of like three. There's like a tier of these curls that come out further. I'm going to blend this in so that works better. And actually, this hair is like way too high. So I do think that when you guys come back to a piece, spend some time and just make fixes, because I think it is very tempting at this stage to say, oh, well, I've already worked on this for so long and I know that I've done everything I need to do. No, you don't. Especially when you've been looking at it for so long. You guys ever look at your drawing and you're like, I don't know what I need to do, because everything just looks the same. It's like you almost develop this blindness towards your drawing. And so that's why I think, me especially, I need that time away from the drawing. It's not that I don't want to keep drawing. It's just at a certain point, you just feel like you can't see anything anymore. So a lot of this is giving yourself the opportunity to really step back. Okay, so you can see that gives him a little bit more form. Oh my God, his ear is so small. What am I? Oh my God, this is terrible. See, so you guys, you can't go in and just assume everything's fine. Now, see, I chose the white plastic eraser here because here I really am trying to just wipe out the charcoal. Up here, I might be trying to subtly lift something, in which case the kneaded eraser is so much better for that. And so I do try to ask myself, okay, how severe or subtle of a change am I trying to do with that eraser? And then that's how I pick it. Now that's too big. Ugh, I'm mega fussing. So this is the fussing stage, you guys. Once you've worked on a drawing for a little while, it's easy to get into that fussing stage. So I'm going to try not to do that, but there are a lot of things in here that just got to get fixed. So I'm just doing a little bit of work here to make the ear a little bit stronger. I'm not going to sweat the proportions so much right now, but he needs ears. that would be helpful, don't you guys think? And the ear is very bright. I mean, there's really strong highlights on this. So yeah, okay. All right, let's get back here, and I'm going to look at the contour some more, maybe working around it like that, some more squinting. And I also see that this contour is not quite round enough either. So again, I'm still fixing things at this point. Don't tell yourself at any point that you're done with that process. You are not. You are just getting going. And it's a process that continues until you're done. And what I'm doing right now, I'm just using my finger to pull things out just so I can spread the charcoal more, because sometimes it's not helpful actually to actually draw with the compressed charcoal stick. Like sometimes the compressed charcoal stick, it's too strong. Sometimes you don't want that. So oftentimes I will just take my finger just to pull some areas out of that. Okay, I think that looks a little better, Timothy. Okay. Let's really try to get the highlights bolder. Like I think over here, I see a pretty strong one. So right now I'm going to stick with the plastic eraser because it is strongest. I will get to the other stuff, but for now I'm just trying to get better contrast, and the Mars is good for that. Because I feel like I lost the structure of the hair. I feel like it got mushy. turned into like tapioca pudding. That sounds good. I would really like some tapioca pudding. Actually, you know what? My mother-in-law made this amazing rice pudding. I have never had rice pudding like this ever in my life. And I asked her about the recipe. She's like, oh yeah, you have to stir it for an hour and a half. I was like, sorry, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I tried to make quince paste once. I only made it correct once in my life. All the other times it didn't set. But freaking quince paste, you got to stir that thing for half an hour, and I could barely get through that. So I was like, no way. And you know something else? Let's see how dark this compressed charcoal really can go. We were talking about value. Like if you guys were here yesterday, we did this stream, which was about the elements of art focusing on value. And one of the things that I talked about in there was really seeing what is the range of your material. And so you can see if I press down like this, it would have been easy to assume, oh, that's dark. But you can see if I press down even harder, it's another level of dark that was not there before. Now, you guys may not be able to see that because I don't know that my camera is going to pick up on all that stuff, but I'll show you in the Discord later on and you guys can see better the subtleties. Yeah, I guess I'm going slow today because, first of all, a lot of the fast stuff was already done, but also I think I need to look more carefully. I feel like the last time I was drawing, because I was just throwing things down, I didn't have to observe so much. And today I'm really going to look. I'm really going to look at you, Timothy. I'm going to break down your personality. No, I'm not. You're just young and cute. Sorry. That's all you are to me, Timothy. Maybe you really are incredible. I have no idea. I don't know. You guys, is he amazing? I have no idea. And I don't have the energy, honestly, to find out. I just don't. Older folks in the chat, tell me if this happened to you. There was one day in my life, I think I was watching The Tonight Show or something. I was watching this was before Stephen Colbert was on. Maybe it was with David Letterman or something. Anyway, I was watching it and I thought to myself, I don't know any of these people that they're interviewing. I couldn't recognize any of the celebrities. I'm like, oh my God, I'm an adult. Because I remember being a teenager and knowing everybody. I was like, oh yeah, that's Christian Slater. That's so-and-so. That's Keanu Reeves. And now I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Like, okay, I guess they have a movie coming out. I have no idea what, and I'm probably not going to see it. Yeah, there's just a point where you realize, wow, everybody on television is younger than me, which basically means you're like under the age of 30 because you don't see older people on TV as much, which is so dumb, if you ask me. Because we do live in a very, unfortunately, like youth-obsessed culture, which is annoying. Okay, sorry, young folks. I'm sure you guys are great, but I think you guys know our culture is not kind oftentimes to older celebrities and all that, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, because I think with hair, you do need to slow down a little bit. Otherwise, especially at this scale, like this is not a very big drawing. If I try to draw faster and more detailed, I'm going to get in trouble really fast. It's going to start to get very hard to navigate because otherwise the drawing is going to get really blunt and that will be difficult for me to do. Yeah, a lot of eraser stick action today, guys. The eraser stick, oh, my best friend. I love you, eraser stick. Greatest tool ever invented for charcoal. If you guys don't have an eraser stick, order one. It's worth it. If you can afford it, it really, really is. It will totally be a game changer in terms of how you guys can get detail in charcoal. It's very visible, I think, in a lot of drawings. So in here, there are these little specks. And so what I did is I made them a little bit too big, but now I'm going to draw over them. There's a lot of that in charcoal where you put it down and then take it away. All right, let's see what people are talking about. Losado says, for me, the day I went beside the game section in an electronics store, it was looking for a printer. Then I realized I was old. That was your moment of revelation. Yeah, there's always something, a moment. For me, it was watching The Late Show. Maybe it's something else. Let's see. Page One Comics says Mono 1 is also a good plastic eraser holder as well. I've used that one before. It's made by Tombow, and it's actually much smaller than this one. The tip is tiny. I suspect that the Mono 1 maybe is better for pencil because it is so small. What I like about this one is it's thin, but it does have some heft to it. So if you press down, you can take away a lot. Whereas I found with the mono eraser, that's a lot tougher to do. So I think maybe the mono, for me at least, is better for pencil. I happen to like this one better for charcoal, but give it a shot and see what you guys are doing. W315 says, I've definitely reached that stage where I don't know who celebrities are and I don't care. Yep, me too. I'm like, you're young and cute. I don't care. This is so funny. Looks like people are talking about the grid method. Let me scroll up and see where that started. Oh, wow. You guys have been chatting for a little while. Okay, well, here it is. Truth Marie says, thoughts on the grid method. Does it hinder or does it help? Trent says, I'm not a fan of the grid method. I guess it's good for people who want to do photorealistic copies of portraits, but it isn't interesting to me. ComCuke says, I feel like the grid method can be a crutch and hinders you learning how to really observe and look at things. I think the grid method only works in terms of being a practical solution if you have a small sketch and you're trying to make it really big. Like I once, a couple of years ago, I had these drawings, I had these sketches that I had meticulously planned out, and I wanted the proportions, and I was transferring it to a drawing that was 7 feet tall. I used a grid for that. But the grid was just to trace the figures and figure out where they were located, and that was it. I didn't do anything beyond that. I'm not a fan of the grid because to me, it's not really drawing, and I think if I were a student and a teacher assigned the grid method, my interpretation, quite honestly, would be, really? You don't trust me to try to draw this on my own? You're giving this to me to ensure that I get results. And yes, you can get results that are accurate if that's what you're looking for. But I think ultimately, you guys, it is much slower. You guys watched me draw Timothy. I also did this drawing from the last stream of India Moore, and I can't remember exactly how long, but I'll tell you, if you did the grid method for this drawing and this drawing, it probably would have taken you 3 times, 4 times longer. So as an efficiency thing, I think it's a problem. And also, you're not really trusting your eye. You're not learning to see things and break them down. I don't think it's a good idea. You can try it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving it a shot, but I just think it's so slow compared to your eye, compared to a well-trained eye. Nothing, I think, can really compete with that in a lot of ways. We've got this message. I'm sorry, your name's in Japanese. I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope you and your family are well during the pandemic and happy holidays. Well, thank you so much for coming to the stream. I really appreciate it, you guys. And Losado makes a good point. They say, I think the grid makes things really stiff. Loomis gets the job done for portraits. Yeah, some people really like Loomis because he's a very straightforward, very simplified way to go about it. Loomis isn't really my cup of tea. I'm a little bit more expressionistic. And if you want accuracy, my technique is probably not the way to go because I'm not really into all the accuracy stuff. So if you want something that's like really photorealistic, my technique might not be so good for you. But my feeling about all this stuff, you guys, just try it. Just try all these things. See what works for you. And then the stuff that doesn't work, don't do it. Because I'm not one of those people. I don't think that anything is inherently good or bad. especially with art, where so much of it is so personal and it's so much about personal preference. So I don't believe that there's any method that is wrong in terms of drawing. It's just what works for you. Is that a good fit for what you want to do? That's what you have to ask yourself. I guess what I am against is people making assumptions. Like if people say, oh, well, I know Loomis is bad. And then I'll say, well, okay, well, what do you not like about Loomis? And they're like, oh, it just looks really bad. And I'm like, you didn't even try it. I'm like, that's not good to just assume that it's not going to work for you. Because I did that in art school where I thought I knew better. And I was like, oh, that looks so dumb, 3D design class. I don't need that. I just want to be a figurative painter. None of this matters. And then lo and behold, I went and I did my master's degree in sculpture because I ended up loving it. And if it had not been for that class being a requirement, I would never have taken that class. Tell me, you guys in the chat, how many of you have ever been forced to do something that you were like, I don't need to do this. This is not necessary. And then ended up eating your words later? Because I totally have. On so many occasions, just made assumptions about things that I just knew crap about, and then realized later, wow, this actually does have a lot of relevance to what I want to do. It's just sometimes it's not that obvious when you're in art school what is going to help you. You don't always know. But to me, when you're an artist, you guys, it all goes to the same place. It's like one big cup of soup, right? It's not going to hurt you to have those extra skills under your belt. And even things that you think don't help you, they might. They really might. So don't make any assumptions about anything. I think that's the only thing that I'm against, is people just assuming, oh, that's not good, or oh, sculpture has nothing to do with this and I don't need that. I don't think that's a good mindset. I also think, you guys, you know what I've been thinking about? I was taking a shower today because apparently that's where all my ideas come from. And I was thinking to myself that there have been so many scenarios where I have made myself so available to people and people don't want the help. And I'm like, what's wrong with asking for help? Why do so many people have a hang up asking for help? I mean, I've had students where I literally have like practically thrown myself in front of them saying, hello, I will help you. I will do as much as I possibly can to make this better for you. And they still don't want to take me up on it. And I just am sort of flabbergasted by that, because I just know that I'm the first person to admit I don't know how to do something. And my feeling is I want to find the person who can help me and get everything I can out of that person, especially if they're willing and available. And why would you turn that down? I mean, I understand it's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to sometimes talk to somebody, maybe you don't know them very well, but honestly, you guys, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So tell me in the chat, how many of you guys, for one reason or another, it doesn't even have to be an art thing, you've had help available, but for some reason, maybe you hesitated. Maybe you said, oh, I don't really want to. And tell me why. Maybe I'm making assumptions about people that I should not be making. I just think that if the help is there, take it. Use it if somebody wants to help you. Because, yeah, there's certain scenarios where it's not as easy. And it's like you do have to go and ask. And that can be harder. That's not the same thing. But I had some students who I had to practically beg to let me help them. And it took a lot of arm twisting to do that. And I was like, I don't think that's the way it should be. I think you guys should be more excited about this. Okay, let's start to move on up here. I do get the feeling that Timothy's hair, it's fragmenting a little bit. That's the trouble with hair, is that I do want to go in and articulate smaller areas, but I also don't want to lose the cohesion. I don't want him to lose his flowy hair, his beautiful flowy hair. I wonder how long it takes to style this hair. You know, this hairstyle where it's like supposed to look all messy, but it like takes 3 hours to do. Like that kind of cracks me up just thinking about that. Although, you know who has really nice celebrity hair? Eddie Redmayne. I love his messy hair. He's so cute. I've been listening to him all day with his really bad singing voice. I've been listening to him on Les Mis. He's just so cute in that movie. Okay. So what I'm doing right now, I'm putting my head back because I did feel for a minute that I was cutting up the hair a little bit too much, and I don't want to do that. I do want to spend time trying to see past that. Oh, and actually right now, this is a good time to work on this transition from the scalp into the hair, because that area can be very tricky. So actually, let's take some of the kneaded eraser and pull some of these strokes downwards into the forehead. I mean, honestly, I could work on Timothy for another 2 hours because this is so detailed and refined, but I just want to show you guys like a little bit how you get past that initial stage. So Timothy, you may not be getting the 100% Professor Lieu charcoal treatment, but I'll give you enough. I'll give you enough to sustain yourself, right? At the very, I mean, you're fine. You're in that dude movie. You're young and cute. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be bitter about him being young and cute. Okay. Because I do think when you work from photo reference, there's always a part of you that thinks you could do more. You're like, oh, I could make it more detailed. I could do this. But at a certain point, you just have to stop yourself and say, you know, I that's it. That's all I need to do. It's like when Jordan and I, we were doing those drawings of Lupita. I don't know how to say her last name. But both of us at one point were just like, yeah, I don't want to do more wrinkles. We're done. we don't need this anymore. And I am going to pop in a couple of stray hairs back here to give it a little bit of texture, because I always tell you guys, don't draw every single hair. But I think when you're almost done, it does help to put in these little wisps so it has a little bit more texture. I know you guys probably can't see it that well on the webcam, but like I said, I'll show it in the Discord so you guys can see the details and what's going on back there. Okay, and I do want to bulk up this highlight. So I guess it's this. This is sort of the most dramatic. This highlight here on the left-hand side. So if I can maybe make that more prominent, that might be enough for this drawing. Because I knew I wasn't going to do a lot on this drawing. I knew that it was just little touches that I was going to do. And that's fine. And that's the way details should be. If you guys do a good job setting up the whole drawing, this part shouldn't be difficult. It's like putting decorations on a cake. I think that's all you're going to get, Timothy. I know I could pick more, but I really want to get to Angela. So let's see what people are talking about in the chat. Let me just get in here and we're going to switch to Angela. So goodbye, Timothy. All right, oops, that's the color version. Let's put her up there. All right, before I start with Angela, let me see what people are saying in the chat. ComCuke says, unfortunately in my school, a lot of professors aren't as generous with their help. You'll ask for it, but they aren't helpful. The environment doesn't really encourage students to seek help. Well, I know that that's tricky because it is discouraging if you ask for help and it's not very helpful. But there are some teachers that I had in art school who were a little bit aloof. But when I did go to them and ask for stuff, it's like there are certain teachers I think you have to pull it out of them. I know as a student, you don't want to feel like you have to do that much work, but it's useful because when you get it out of them, it really is a nice thing. This is interesting. Elizabeth says, I think my mother trained me not to ask for help for anything. I just realized, I think probably after I had kids, that you cannot do everything by yourself. And the same thing goes with being an artist. Think about any artist you know. Did any of them do all of it by themselves? No way. Everybody had help. In fact, this week, I think it was yesterday morning, One of my former students who graduated in the spring from RISD called me up and said, listen, I'm really struggling, and I graduated during the COVID situation, and I don't really know how to navigate things, and I feel like I'm ready for the next thing, but I don't really know what to do. And I said to them, listen, that was really smart of you to reach out to me, because I was totally happy to talk to them and say, here's what I think you should do. And I had them join the Discord and everything. And it was a really nice conversation. Like, I really enjoyed talking to him. But I understand what you guys are pointing out. That definitely makes sense. I want to give a shout out to Boris. Thank you so much for the super chat. We greatly appreciate any support you guys can give us. As you know, Art Prof relies entirely on donations, and all of our content is 100% free. So any amount that you guys contribute really means a lot to me. Cool. Joel says, hi, greetings from Cuba. Very nice. I don't know that we've ever had, well, maybe we have had somebody from the chat in Cuba, but I've never actually seen somebody type that. That is really, really cool. Let's see. AJ says, I prefer to figure stuff out on my own. I will ask for help when I want it. But like you, my art teacher begged me to let her help me with my art because I needed help when I didn't. I didn't let her. Well, I don't know your teacher. I don't know what your relationship is like with your teacher. But I can tell you as a student, I definitely had times where I didn't know I needed help. I thought I didn't. But then when I let the person help me, I realized, oh, yeah, I do need your help. So what I would just say, my advice would be just take it. And if you realize, wow, that was not helpful, then don't use it. It does not hurt to turn down advice. But I think it does hurt to miss out on the opportunity to get advice. Because let's face it, once you guys leave school, there's not a lot of opportunity for that close mentorship that you can get very much in school. And Karis is saying, I think some people are also afraid of failure, so they hesitate. Yeah, but failure is everywhere. Like, you have the opportunity to do something really badly pretty much every minute of the day. And so I see that of course, who wants to fail? It feels crappy to fail. But you have to take a lot of shots, and you're not going to get them all. I watched this skateboarding video with my daughter a little ways back. It was Tony Hawk, who was like skateboarding legend. And honestly, out of this 10-minute video, I think 9 minutes of it was him falling on his butt all the time. And he's the skateboarding guy. So if he's doing that, I think it's okay for us to do that as well. Darian says, I'm all up for helping hands. Sometimes fear or embarrassment can get in the way, sometimes lack of trust. That's a good point. A lot of those things can definitely make it harder to do. But you know something? I've told a lot of students this in the past, because I will say to them on the first day, I'll say, listen, if you need help, tell me, okay? I know, because students have told me this, sometimes they don't ask for help because they think if they ask for help, I'm going to think they're stupid. I'm going to say, oh, Sarah doesn't understand. They must be really dumb. I don't think that. In fact, it's the opposite. My thought is, wow, Sarah is recognizing that they're struggling with something. And not only that, Sarah is taking responsibility for it. They're actually taking initiative to do something. And I respect students for doing that so much, because suffering in silence, it's not fun. And I've had students do that where they have such a hard time. They don't tell me until like the last day of class. And at that point, I can't do anything about it because it's too late. And so I would just say, try to err on taking that help, asking for it. I know it's a risk, but the likeliness that you might get something good out of it, it's higher than I think a lot of people think. All right, let's get into Angela. So let me pull up my photo of Angela. So who's going to draw Angela with me? I love Angela. She's such a badass. And by the way, you guys, this photo, the black and white one that's in the reference link below, I did pump up the contrast. I do that a lot. So if you guys are using a reference photo that You didn't take yourself, Photoshop it, change it. So for this image, I brightened the highlights and I also made it black and white. Those two things make a really big difference. And so if you're using a photo, don't tell yourself that you can't do that because it's actually super, super helpful to have that. Okay, here we go. Let me just make sure I'm making this the right size so you guys can really see exactly what I'm doing. All right, we're going to get these dreads in here. I got to make sure I give them ample space because they are dramatic. They're amazing. I mean, more than half this mass is the dreadlocks. Her face feels like a very small portion compared to Timothy. So remember, when you guys are drawing hair, it's about mass. Don't think about anything else, okay? You have to show mass first. And so here, I'm putting all my emphasis on this mass here because it's like there's one mass here and then there's another one that sort of swoops downwards. And then this one curls around. So what I'm doing right now is I'm subdividing. And you can see her ear is like tucked back there. There's another cluster of hair that comes this way. And then if we look at her neck, actually, let me move this up so you guys can see that a little bit better. If that's the ear and the neck comes down here, and here's the shoulder, there's another cluster of hair, but this hair back here, it's going straight. It looks like cauliflower. I had cauliflower for dinner tonight. That's probably why I'm thinking about that. So yeah, that's the beginning, is this big mass. And this one sort of wraps around. So I'm going to show that direction. And this is interesting. The way the hair transitions into the scalp, it's actually not that soft. It's pretty defined, which is unusual. I wonder, this wasn't her real hair, was it? I don't think it was. Probably is a wig. I mean, yeah, I have no idea. Sometimes you can't tell if it's their real hair or not. It's really hard to see. Okay, so we have that mass in there. And for the face, again, I'm going to try not to spend a huge amount of time on the face, but we need something in there. So I'm putting in the eye sockets, the nasal bone, the side of the nose. And for the lip, I like to start with the line in the middle and then build the chin and everything around that. I always make the chin too small. That is so weird. I don't think I've ever made the chin too big ever in my entire life. Everybody has tendencies. I do that with thighs. I always make thighs way too short. That's just one of my habits. Okay. And even this necklace, which is not hugely important, I'm just going to put it in as a quick landmark. And even the clothing, which again is not really what I'm going to focus on, I'm still going to put it in there. Okay? So don't just say I'm drawing the head and the hair and leave out the rest. Like the neck actually is very helpful. So don't keep that separate. I think that's pretty important. Okay, let's get the nose a little bit better defined. And I did pump up some of the contrast in the face as well, because I wanted the whiteness of the dreadlocks to really pop. And so to do that, when I was in Photoshop, I actually went in and darkened some of the darker shadows. Tell me if you guys do that. Who in the chat, when you're using a reference photo, do you guys do that? Do you go in Photoshop and mess with it, or do you just draw from it? I'm just curious if I'm the only weirdo that does that. But I pretty much always do that. I don't know that I've ever worked from a photo reference and not done that. There's always some effect that I want that is very hard to get if I don't do that. Okay, let's just get in the upper eyelids. I'm going to be sad, Angela, if I don't make you look amazing, because she's amazing. Oh, it doesn't look anything like her. Who cares? Don't do that, guys. Don't do what I just did. Actually, this is too small. I'm going to wipe it out and do it again. I think I made the facial features way too large. So I'm just going to go in and do another pass of the eye sockets. And you guys have to be willing to do that. Do you see how I just went, I just annihilated everything that I spent time on? You have to be okay doing that now and then. You can't be so precious about your stuff. If you guys are too precious about what you're doing, you're going to miss out on chances to do something. And honestly, I would rather just kill it and fix it rather than just deal the whole time. It's that whole like suffering in silence. Oh God, that looks worse. Oh geez, this is not a good start. I think the eyes are, I think they're way too small. Nose is too big. Oh, see, this is the thing about portraits. It's like you can just pick and pick and pick and pick until you just drive yourself insane. And again, I don't want to do that. I like how I'm doing all the things that I always tell you guys not to do. It's hard though. Much easier to give advice than to take it. Oh, geez. Okay, she definitely needs a major zygomatic arch. And the philtrum in here is pretty substantial. I just want to make sure that's a little bit more dramatic. And then I don't want her mandible to get too thin. Okay, that is definitely better. It's definitely not done yet, but I feel that the sizing, it's not great, but it's closer. It's better than what I had earlier, and that's good enough. Okay, so we're making some changes. And what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to pick out some really specific dreads. So let me move this down. You guys can see that a little bit better. Okay, because I probably am going to try to draw individual dreads, but what I'm going to try to do is pick out the ones that really stick out. Like to me, this one really sticks out because it's very straight. This one feels very taut. And there's another one next to it that sort of meets it. These two dreads, they sort of come together. And then there's this like really serpenty one. I mean, to me, this is like Medusa dreadlocks. They're awesome. They're so badass. Whoopi Goldberg has white dreads too. She looks amazing as well. I'll tell you, I can't wait to be one of those older women with just white hair. I went to this art conference a year ago, and there was this one woman there. She had pearl white hair, and it was so beautiful. I was like so jealous that her hair was just this gorgeous pearly white. And you know what? She had like this huge purple streak down the middle, and it looked amazing. Because, you know, sometimes if the hair is not bleached really well, purple doesn't look amazing, but her purple hair looked incredible. Okay, there's also this one here. It's sort of doing its own thing. So we're going to make this one really stick out. And this one sort of reaches past. So I'm trying to pick out the individual ones that I think are like doing their own thing. I don't know. I am getting a little lost, but that's okay. I think as long as you get a few of them, you don't need every single one. I mean, it is quite possible that I probably did skip a couple dreads here and there, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, and now there's these, which are kind of behind. I mean, I'm doing more line than I want to, and I probably should get into the tone very soon. I don't want to spend too much time picking over this, but I do need a little bit of structure so I'm not totally lost. Okay, and now this one, there's like this ring that comes down, and this one back here, which is almost like backlit. That's the other thing, is the lighting in this photo. It's weird. There's like lighting coming from Angela's left-hand side, but there's also backlighting. Look at the dreads here. They have light coming behind them. So that does not make the lighting situation any easier. It makes it much more complicated. Okay, I feel like I'm making these look too much like noodles. They're not that straight. So these two back here, I need to make them a little bit lumpier. I made them way too straight, and now I'm paying the price. So let's go back in and do that. Okay, so that's not a bad start. Let me do a little bit more down here, because this one, That drops in the center. I just want to make sure that one's really stable so I don't get totally lost. This is serious observation because, guys, like we were talking about the grid method, if you did this on the grid method, this probably the point that I'm at right now, it would have been at least an hour. I mean, depending on how fast you are. But what I'm saying is if you can train your eye to see, it's much faster than actually just relying on that grid. It's very slow. And there is something to be said, you guys, about drawing faster. Like Jordan, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. He is so fast now on Procreate. He was not always like that, you guys. I mean, because I've watched him work his butt off to learn all this stuff. And it really has benefited him a lot in terms of getting more work done, in terms of getting hired. So there is an advantage to having a faster pace. You don't have to. I mean, it's everybody's decision how they want to do that. But at least in a professional industry, especially like concept art, which is what Jordan is in, it really can help you in a studio setting. If you're in an animation studio, it makes a big, big difference. Okay, let me take a short break and let's see what people are saying in the chat. Liz Engel says, I only use a photo as a loose guide. I always try to draw from an imaginary experience if I'm drawing somebody I know, and I draw a lot with both hands and try to feel the breath of the lines. That's actually something that Victor Lara at RISD really pushed, and I had him when I was a freshman, and he did that a lot. He would make us draw with both hands, and when he drew, he would draw with both hands, and he came at such a good time in my life because I was so tight with my drawing when I was a freshman at RISD, and he just really, really loosened me up tremendously. So I was very grateful to have that experience. Looks like people are talking about an art teacher drawing on their artwork. Let me see if I can find the beginning of that. Oh, okay. So AJ says, the reason I didn't let my art teacher help me is because her way of, quote, helping is drawing on top of my drawing and it ruins what I did. Okay, that's not helping, AJ. That is a violation of your work. Not cool. Here's my feeling about that. I confess, when I first started teaching, I did that a few times. And I used to reason that, oh, well, if I ask them, and they say yes, then it's okay. But the thing is, I think the longer I taught, the more I realized that a lot of students feel pressured to say, okay, like they're uncomfortable saying, no, I don't want you to do that. And so they say, yes, you can, even though when they don't want you to. And my feeling is that if you cannot explain to a student what you're trying to say without drawing on their artwork, maybe the student is not the problem. And there's a lot of workarounds. Like, for example, some teachers have told me that they will have tracing paper. So they could take tracing paper and put it on top of your drawing and then draw on the tracing paper. They can still demonstrate the same thing without messing up your drawing. I always just take another sheet of paper and I just redraw quickly whatever it is that I want to talk to them about. And I think that's much, much more respectful. I'm really against people drawing on other people's stuff. I think it's really not cool. It's not something that I like. Yeah, like ComCuke is saying, I hate it when teachers do that. My high school teacher painted over one of my paintings twice. It's been 4 years since that class, and I'm still angry when I think about it. I get it. That totally makes sense to me. I think that's really important. And let's see. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name. Maybe you can type it out for me in the chat so I can sort of say it. I'm still unconfident to draw with blocks or polygons because my proportions are all over the place. You know something? You got to start somewhere. I honestly think, you guys, it's easier to do bad proportions and then fix them than to try to nail it the first time through. My daughter, when she was 5, actually, this is a Christmas story. She's so funny. She doesn't like to waste her time on anything. And I remember my first daughter got her stocking and just carefully took everything out. Like, she really wanted to take her time. My other one just dumped it all on the floor. It made such a mess. But I was like, if I was her and I just really wanted to know what was in that stocking, that was a great way to figure it out really fast. Yes, it made a mess, but you can clean up the mess. So the thing about proportions, I honestly think you're better off just drawing it really badly and then fixing it. I think you'll have a much easier time that way. All right, so Elizabeth is saying, I modify photos with the phone camera. And Fab Geek says, I've done it before when I have a reference I love. Sometimes I love the color, but need to see the contrast more. I'll print a second black and white with high contrast. Very cool. Well, hello, Karma. I'm so excited that you stumbled across our live stream. Come hang out with us and see what it is that we are doing, because they are saying, thank you guys for the advice. My teachers would make me feel horrible for using references, so I just thought referencing was bad. It is not. There's so much going around, I think especially younger artists in high school and middle school, that if you use a reference photo, you're not a good artist. In fact, somebody in the Discord said the other day, they wanted to know, is it okay if I use a reference drawing if I want to draw a horse? I was like, of course, why not? And they said, well, I just feel like it means I'm not a good artist because I can't draw it from imagination. I was like, how many people can do that? I don't know a lot of people. I've been drawing for years and years. I always have a reference. So there's no shame in that. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think if you are not using references, I think that's a mistake, because it's like you're giving yourself a setback that's not necessary. It's like, if it's there, use it. Like, why would you not eat the chocolate on the counter? It's there, right? Anyway. All right, let's take a look. Oh, thank you, Murphy. Okay, I will try to remember that. I don't know that I always will, but I'll do the best I can. Yeah, this great advice from C. Cantrell. If you draw bad proportions, then assess what you've done. You can correct them. It's like teaching yourself to see. It's much easier to do it that way. When you guys try to just, get it right the whole way through, it's very, very stressful. Sophia says, nice, I caught this live stream. We just covered drawing hair in class. We're about to move on to drawing a full portrait. We've been focusing on specific features so far. Cool. Yeah, that's really good timing, Sophia. Awesome. Okay. Let's get on to Angela. And actually, I'm going to make her a little bit larger so I can see a little bit better. And I'm now going to start pulling out some of these highlights. Actually, I'm going to start with the compressed charcoal. And honestly, it doesn't matter which one you guys want to start with. A lot of people say, well, should I do the shadows or should I do the highlights first? I'm like, it does not matter. It really, really does not matter. I mean, ooh, that is really scary looking. She looks like she's got like a monobrow or something like that. But guys, let your drawings look terrible. Just let them look bad. You have to do that. I feel that this is very similar to parenting. It's sort of like when they say, oh, you have to let your kids make their own mistakes. And it's hard. It's so hard as a parent to do that, because it's like you want so much for them to not make the mistake. But then you also know that if you don't let them make the mistake, they're not really going to learn their lesson, which is sort of the whole point of learning a lesson. And I feel that drawing is the same way. Don't tell yourself that it's got to look that amazing from the get-go. All right. Let your drawing look bad, you guys. Okay? You can't live like that. It's just too stressful. Ah, shoot. I lost my charcoal. Hang on one sec. I think it fell down here. Okay. Here we go. Because here's the thing, you guys. If I squint and you look at the dreadlocks and you look at the face, I don't think there's hardly anything in the face that competes with the bright of the hair, except maybe the highlight on the lip. Okay, so what that says to me is that pretty much everything that's in the face really should just inherently be darker than what's going on, because it's easy to just look at the value just in the face. But the thing is, this is what we were talking about in that value stream yesterday with Kat and Alex, that value is relative. You have to say, how dark is this face compared to the hair. And right now, the hair is much lighter by a lot. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to darken this whole section, except for this like really bright highlight, which I probably should just pull out for now, just so I don't forget about it. And actually probably on the chin as well, there's this pretty bright highlight. So I'm going to just toss that in again, so I don't forget about it. But then even in here, the highlights on the nose, they're not that dark. They really are not. And yeah, even like this middle section of the forehead, that's like a middle gray. That's not light at all. So I'm going to really try to do that. Oh, I love her eyebrows. She's so beautiful. Her eyebrows are they're so dramatic, you know, they're incredible. And then for the eye, I do really want to show the lower lid. I'll definitely come back and do more on the eyes, but for now, I just want to put in something to hold the place. I'm sorry, Angela. I know you don't look like the goddess you are, but I promise it'll get better. I promise, I hope. Okay, at the very least, that's just holding the place right now. And I think for the dreadlocks, I think I do want to get in the darks first. So this is probably the darkest area. Back here, there's this big patch that goes behind these dreadlocks. So what I'm doing right now is I'm identifying what is the darkest, largest area in the hair. And it happens to be here. And also at this stage, I'm going to abandon some of the line work, which I know sounds weird, but I actually think that these dreads should not be hyper articulated. And that's a stylistic choice on my part. You don't have to do that, but that's what I'm interested in doing. I'm not interested in outlining every single dread. I want to do something a little bit more atmospheric. So that's more a choice that I'm just making as the person that's doing the drawing. Okay, like especially here, this is very dark, like this whole ring. So this, I'm really going to lay it down. So this is what I was talking about in that other stream, was really knowing how dark can your charcoal really go. And sometimes people don't know, like if you don't have a lot of experience, it's not always easy to tell what is the range of what you can really get done. Okay. So again, these dreads are backlit. And so this one actually, and this one next to it, are both very dark. And then here as well. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in the darks, and then I'll probably do a quick pass of gray, and then I'll do the eraser work. And actually this will help too, because this area behind the dreads, this is all dark. So I'm going to just block in this area, and then you'll really be able to see the white pop back there. So just a little bit of indication of that. And it changes because up here it gets dark, and then it gets like gray over here, and then it's very light, and then it gets dark again. So yes, this is very patchy and it's a big mess, but let's see how that goes. Okay. Let's just pick out a couple of key darks. I love this one right here. This is a beautiful dreadlock. Okay, this is one I really want to pull out. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, dreadlocks, it's like you either look amazing with them or you don't look good. I've seen some people with dreadlocks. I'm like, that's not a good look for you. Not everybody, I think, can pull them off. Who here's had dreadlocks? I actually have heard that they're kind of a lot of work to maintain. Actually, I had a student a couple years ago who had dreadlocks that it was hair that she had when she was 8. Like she'd been growing her hair for that long, which is incredible. And her dreads were so long, like they went down like past her backside. It was incredible. All right. So jumping around, not doing dread by dread. Does everybody see that? Because I think that's the expectation is let's draw this dread, let's draw that one, let's draw this one. But I'm really, really trying hard to draw these as a cluster of dreads. It's like you really have to think about them as a group. You can't do it dread by dread. That's not going to happen. Okay, some more squinting, and I got to slow down a little bit because I am getting ahead of myself. And I don't want to do too much of this black because I definitely can overdo it, but there's just a couple key spots that I really need it in order to define the form. Oh, this is so fun. I mean, this drawing doesn't look great, but I'm having fun. And who cares about anything else? As long as you're having fun, have fun with the drawing. You know, you can struggle with the drawing and still have fun. You can. It is possible. Because I get it. It's challenging, but drawing should be fun. Like if you guys are drawing and you're miserable and you're super upset all the time, I don't know. There's something that you got to fix or change or whatever. I mean, I get it. Not every situation is fantastic. And if you have an art teacher and you get along, oh God, you guys, AJ, I know you and your art teacher don't jive, but there is an art teacher at my school who hated me. Honestly, I really think she was threatened. Sometimes teachers can be like that. Like they get threatened when they have a good student. I get excited. I'm like, woo, I'm just along for the ride. I don't have to do anything. It's great. But I know some teachers are like that and it's obnoxious. And she did everything she could to make my life not great during that time. So I feel you. I don't need those people in my life anymore. All right, let me take a quick break and let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat. Wow, this is really cool, guys. There's so many great topics. I just love how we can jump around so much between art stuff and generational gaps and all these different things. Let's see. Murphy says, for Timothy, you use soft lines, which made him look feminine, while in this one, you accentuated her jaws, which makes her look masculine. Well, I think feminine, masculine, I think a lot of that is up for debate because it depends on who you ask and what cultures. I mean, everybody has such a different definition of what is masculine and what is feminine, but she's the queen. I mean, how can she not be a badass? Like, I'm not going to draw her looking all soft and quiet. Like, I mean, Timothy was totally more like that. She's a total badass. I love you, Angela. Amshu says, when I use compressed charcoal, everything smudges. It is very difficult to redraw the sketch. Well, I think with compressed charcoal, it's really powerful. And so you have to use it in moderation. So maybe the way for you to tame that a little bit, just cut back on the quantity that you put on the page. And another thing you can do is not use so much physical pressure. So if you don't press as hard, sometimes it's easier to get rid of. So that might be an important thing. Murphy's asking, going for an impressionist approach for the smaller locks? I'm not sure. What I do know, though, is I don't want to draw dread by dread. I want to get rid of these hideous outlines. In fact, let's do that right now before I forget to do that. And I'm just going to take my kneaded eraser. I'm not using the highlights just yet, but I'm just going to soften up some of these areas because some of the line work is, for me at least, jumping out a little too much. And I think, actually, I'm not going to use my eraser. I think I'm just going to smudge because the eraser was sort of lifting a little bit more than I wanted it to lift. Because I guess my approach for a lot of charcoal drawing is to make it all mushy and messy and then pull out articulate areas. I don't tend to start really articulate and sharp. I tend to go the other way. The mush, for lack of a better word. And then it's like you pull the structure out of the mush. I guess that's what it is. Sounds really, really intellectual, doesn't it? I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I think that the way I draw and think sometimes is very barbaric. I'm not a very suave thinker. Like, you will not see me at some conference making a sophisticated commentary. I've had it with that. I'm like, life is way too short. I was joking with some of the professors who I've been helping out with online learning, and we were talking about how snotty academics can be. And I was explaining that being on YouTube, really, people gave me crap about it in academia. Like, they really, really looked down on you. And this one professor joked, which is so accurate. He said, yep, nobody will respect you in academia unless you're published in a journal that is gathering dust that's been read by 3 people. I'm like, it's so true. It's like on YouTube, I'm reaching so many people. I'm talking to people from around the world, and yet somehow that is looked down upon in academia as selling out, whatever it is that you guys want to call it. And that's really annoying, because I'm like, I thought as teachers, you guys want to teach people? Isn't it better if you reach more than less? I don't know. Maybe it's like they feel it's a secret that people don't deserve unless they pay $70,000 a year, which is, oh my God, so terrifying. Okay, I'm going back in, just doing another pass with the charcoal. See, like here on this side, do you guys see how the separate dreads, they're not as obvious? Here, they're a little bit more obvious. They're getting there, but what I'm trying to do is just cut back on that. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm drawing more with the side of the charcoal, less with the tip. Who was it earlier in the chat? I can't remember. The person saying that, oh, here, Amshu, you were talking about the compressed charcoal. It could also be that maybe you're drawing with the tip too much, because a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't realize that actually, at least for me, when I draw with compressed charcoal, most of the time I'm drawing with the side. I'm not using the tip, because the tip can be overpowering. So you might try just for a little while, just see what happens if you don't draw with the tip. Just draw with the side. Like right now, I'm drawing with the side. I'm not drawing with the tip. And the side, it's easier to put down a lighter mark. It covers areas faster, so you draw more efficiently. And it makes you less likely to get tight. Because when I draw with the tip, I do get very tight. Okay, more squinting. I really want, there's this one dread that's really sticking out. So I want this one to really pull out. And I guess this like loopy one could use a little more. Okay, I think I'm almost ready to get in there. I just want to add these little ones in the back. Yeah, like this backlit situation, really hard. Like it wasn't enough to give me dreadlocks. You had to give me that too. And even here, this is a pattern that's on the shirt. You might say, well, this is about the hair, but put in something just as a placeholder. It does not have to be anything dramatic, but it does make a difference in terms of how you see the rest of the drawing. All right. Oh, Camilla is saying refer to the hair as locks, which is the proper and respectful term. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Are you not supposed to call them dreadlocks? Sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay. Oh, you're not so, oh, I see. You're saying you're not supposed to say dreads. Okay, so you're saying I should say locks. Okay, sorry about that. I had no idea. Okay. And let's see what else people are saying. Murphy says, my English is not the best, so they taught me locks just means hair, not just African-American hair. Okay, good. Thank you for the clarification. Was it Camilla? Sorry, I have to scroll back. Yes, thank you very much. I am not schooled in hair at all. I don't know anything about any of this. So Tainley says, I heard recently it is not politically correct for white people to have dreadlocks. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys in the chat can talk about that. I really have no idea. And one snippet says, I like drawing from reference because I get to really pay attention to the details that I wouldn't have seen if I wasn't drawing. Well, my feeling about it, it's always okay to have more information. That's fine, because you can always not draw it. And that's why I do think that when you have a reference, it is better to have a high resolution one, because if it's really blurry and you want the detail, but it's not there, you can't do anything about it. But if it's there, you can always choose to not draw it. So I always err on trying to do that. Okay. Hi, Judith. Thanks for coming into the stream. So glad that you guys are here. And Losado says, I come out of the tattoo industry and it's split in media artists and people that want to strangle, beat, and crucify them. So I know that gatekeeping, even in tattooing, it has its reasons. Well, I think any place, people have different ways of expressing themselves, and it's not always clear because sometimes people don't have all the right information. So anyway, I'm going to refer to them as locks now. So thank you very much for that. Okay, let's get in and do some highlights. I think for this, I think I'm going to start with the Mars eraser. And we're just going to pull out some of the areas that I think stand out the most. So I guess if I squint, this is the brightest area of light, this area of the hair, like that. And I know it can get darker, but I just want to establish it. Yeah, because I guess there's backlighting back here, but that's not really that dramatic. It's not as big at the very least. So I'm going to pull out some of these highlights, because actually back here, this is all backlighting, actually. Yeah, that's all backlighting. Sheesh. All right, and I'm going to try not to make the hair too smooth. I think that's what's difficult about the locks, is that I think if you don't give them texture, they're going to look like string cheese. I don't know. Like, I need to have that texture in there. Otherwise, I think you're kind of missing half the battle. Yeah, like this is really bright back here. Yeah, that's super bright. My goodness. The lighting is really throwing me for a loop in this image. So it's hard. I gotta loosen up. I do feel a little bit. I guess that's why I'm using the thicker eraser, because I know if I go for the eraser stick right away, that's not going to be good. I feel like I'm going to really tighten up way too much if I have that. Yeah, the other thing about terminology, you guys, is terminology changes depending on the generation you're in. Because, for example, the word queer has changed. It has a totally different meaning than it did when I was a kid. And I literally have had to say to students, and actually some of the staff here at Art Prof helped me out because they're a lot younger. And I'm like, listen, I don't think I'm using this word right anymore. Can you guys please explain to me, how am I supposed to use this? So it can be very confusing sometimes, exactly what words you can and cannot use. And I do the best I can, but I'm not always perfect, obviously. It can be very tricky. Like, I will admit there's still a lot of terminology. Like, what was it? Lauren Welch had to explain to me what a bro was. What was the other word? Was it pity, biddy? I can't remember. It was a word I'd never heard of before. And I was like, what is that? Like, I have no idea. So yeah, it's very, very confusing. And I'm sure my kids are growing up with a totally different language than I grew up with. I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't have the word transgender. It didn't exist. And people have all different words for things that didn't exist before when I was a kid. So it's very confusing sometimes. All right, I'm just going to go in and do a little bit of work on the face. Not a huge amount, but the texture in the face is bothering me a little bit. I don't like how this is so rough looking because it's too similar to the hair. Like the hair is obviously rougher than the skin. And so I feel like if I just come in here and I just smooth out the skin, just so there is that very visible contrast between the two, I feel like that will help me a little bit better. So I'm just coming in here, not to make the lighting perfect or anything like that, but just to make sure it's not the same texture that you're seeing in the hair. Oh, Angela, I so want to go in and give you amazing eyes. I so want to do that, but I can't right now because I'm trying to get your hair under control. Like that. Oh man, this is going to make me feel like I need another stream. I was like, I'm going to do it. I guess it's just really hard to get things finished. I mean, what I could do, which I have done on other streams, is I won't do another stream, but I'll finish it on my own time. And then sometimes I'll just go in and write something like on Instagram about what I changed and what was the process. So sometimes I'll do that because, guys, we have so much stuff. We need to cover. There's so many other things that we want to get to. I definitely want to do a soft pastel stream at some point. I know people really want me to do a stream on mixing flesh tones with water mixable oils. Oh man, there's so much I want to do for you guys. And it's funny because my daughter actually asked me today, she's like, why do you have to stream every day? I was like, listen, we stream every day and I still feel like we're not getting to things as quickly as I want to. I know I should be more patient, but I want to give it to you guys. Like in the Discord, when you guys are like, we need a stream about this. And it just makes me like want to put it out right away, which of course is impossible, but do the best we can. And streaming every day is the only way for me to sort of feel like I'm producing things for you guys in a reasonable rate. So you're not waiting forever and ever and ever for things to come out. I think another pass of the Mars eraser, and then pretty soon I think I need to get into the eraser stick because this is getting really blunt and I don't think I like that very much. Okay, more squinting because there's this snake-like one that goes up here. I think I lost it. Is it gone? Oh, I did. It's totally gone. Okay, we got to bring that one back because this one's very noticeable because the curve is so dramatic. Like that. Okay. And then if I come back in here, we get those edges, really get that to glow. I think that should help some more. I probably need to come around it from the background to get the shape of that a little bit better. All right, guys, it is definitely time to lift. Some of these blocks are way too much. So I'm just going in with the kneaded eraser and I'm just going to lift a lot of these blocks out of here because I think I'm overusing the block. You got to be careful about that. Like sometimes with charcoal, like charcoal is so good at making black. Like you can make black with very little effort. But the flip side of that is that everything turns black and then it's just too dark and you don't want that for everything. But I do need to cut back. I do think it's too much right now. So like, especially in here, I want to keep that shadow, but I don't want it to be quite so severe because this is really where the darks are. So keeping this here, but really stepping down some of that value, I think will work a lot better. More squinting. Like, see this? If I compare this to this is what I mean by comparing values. See how they're the same, but when I look at the image, this one is darker. So actually this one I'm going to just bring down with my finger a little bit. And some of these, actually this one's quite dark too. I think I really overused the highlights here. That's very easy to do. So you got to keep an eye on that. More kneaded eraser work because now it's getting really mushy, but I'll get the eraser stick in here pretty soon. And then I think that will really, really help. Like, especially here This area, I need like a really crisp contour. Otherwise, it's not going to work so well. And this lock really, I think, needs to be more dramatic. Let's get that out. Okay. This is really fun, though. Like, this is beautiful textures. I just love it. Okay. I think still even here. Still too much black. We were talking about this in the value stream. You guys, tell me if you think this is true. I think it's the gray that's hard. Because here's the thing. If you want it to be bright, just don't draw anything there. Leave it the white of the page, okay? But if you want to make something gray, it's like much, much more difficult, because how do you show those different variations? It can be very tricky. Now, this is where I am so happy to have an eraser stick. It's like really, really helping. If I did not have this right now, oh, geez, I don't know what I would do. Yeah. Oh, and I totally messed this up. There's this whole section of shadow back here. And I got to lift this back because, again, the black took over in that area, and I don't want that to happen. Oh, there's another lock here. So I'm going to pull this lock out of this one. Oh, this is really fun. I love the textures here. They're beautiful. Okay, let's take a quick break. See what you guys are saying in the chat. Okay. Wow, there's so many comments. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss out on anything. AJ says, it's also very annoying because people don't understand and aren't educated enough to truly understand why. It just makes me upset. Even more so since I'm half black and half white. Yeah, I can totally see. I'm not going to say I understand your point of view because I'm not you, but that's very frustrating. So Bean B says a lock of hair is where the term for, quote, dreadlocks comes from. Yeah, if the hair is curly, it's a looser lock of hair, and the tighter the curl texture, the more closely it locks around. Oh my God, you guys know so much about this. Good. And ComCuke says it's called locks because the hair is physically groomed to lock together. Real dreadlocks are permanent, though really skilled hairstylists can undo them. Yeah, I actually had a student, I think it was many years ago at RISD, and they did a series of drawings all about their hair and getting it done in cornrows. And I've never had my hair done like that before. I don't know anything about the process. And it was a really cool drawing. Like, they did this whole sequence about all the things that you have to do to get it done. And they talked about how painful it was to get it done. It was a really cool narrative. Let's see. Maria says, I know that today is all about the hair, but gosh, she has great cheekbones. I love her face shape. She's Angela Bassett. She's amazing. What else can I say? Ashley says, the locks are really made a lot more sense. When you pulled up some of the blacks, checking and rechecking values is really important. Yeah, comparing them, because it's very easy to get lost in here and just say, oh, well, that's a highlight. But it's like, it's a highlight in that spot. If you compare it to another highlight, it might look like a mid-gray. So that's where the value has to be this versus this shadow versus that shadow. I would just suggest with value, you guys, don't try to evaluate each value by itself. It's like color. You have to look at a group of colors, same way you look at a group of values. And that is a lot easier to do. Okay, let's see. Janelle says, wow, this looks so good. And Gargi says, I love what the professor is doing with highlights and the eraser. Very cool. Well, let's do some more. Oh, and we have a question from Paloma, who says, what do you recommend for the type of paper? The paper that I'm using, the link is in the video description. It's Strathmore white charcoal paper, and I really like it because it has a tooth. You'll see when I post the picture in the Discord, there is that texture to it. And it's also nice because it does grip the powdery charcoal a little bit better. Like if you use plain drawing paper that's super smooth and flat, that doesn't tend to work as well for charcoal, but try whatever you guys think is going to work best. And ComCuke says, I agree, Murphy, but a lot of people don't understand that, even though I feel like it's a simple concept. Well, a lot of things are simple concepts that are hard for people to grasp. So yeah, that's really challenging. Okay. Oh, Soy Tainley says, I looked up dreadlocks. They have been around since ancient Egypt, India, and Greece. I feel like somebody should do a thesis on that. That sounds really cool. Okay. Let's do some more on Angela. And I think I do need to get into the face at the very least. You know what I'm going to do? This is not going to be nearly sufficient as far as capturing your goddess-like qualities, Angela. But I do think what will help a tiny little bit is just some of these harsher highlights, like especially this one on the nasal bone. This highlight that comes down here. Because I don't want her to be like totally flat, because I need to have something. Otherwise, it's going to become a mess really fast. Oh, shoot. I'm trying to keep my marks pretty blunt, but it can be hard. And I do want the lips to not look so bad. They look really bad right now, you guys. Oh, geez, they look like crooked. It's really bad. Okay, let's see if I can firm up some of that. I suspect I don't have enough lip. I think some of it got erased in the process. So at the very least, let me just make the lips look bigger, because they're just way too small right now. Maybe get that highlight a little bit more. And then also here, you guys, this like pocket on the lips. Timothy had a really nice pocket on his lips. I mean, they didn't have great lighting on them, but his were pretty visible. So Angela's is pretty visible as well. And I just want to pull out this little highlight. Get that a little stronger. And maybe just like a little bit here. So she's not looking so totally just smooth and flat. I want there to be a little bit of dimension. And just a little bit of structure on those cheekbones so they don't look so mushy. Oh, I really want to draw her eyebrows. I feel like I could do these forever. They're so beautiful. Look at that. And they're more substantial on this side, so a little bit more. Okay, I promise. We're going to get back to the hair. I promise. Okay, let's do a pass with the eraser stick. And here's where I'm going to pick out a couple spots to really brighten up. Like really, really brighten up. So we'll see how far I get with this. I don't think I'm going to go hyper detailed, but I think what I'll do is I'll get as far as I think I can go, and maybe I'll do like the pickier stuff when the stream is over, and I can post it on Instagram so you guys can see how it came out. Because I'll tell you, I do draw differently when I'm on the stream. If it's just me drawing, it's a very different thing. I mean, that's where it's sort of hard, because the way I draw when I'm streaming, it's not really exactly the way I normally draw. So it's a different version. It's not that it's that different, but for me, it feels different because the rhythm of it is not the same when you're talking and drawing at the same time. So I'm looking for edges. I'm looking for spots where the edges of the locks are more graphic, and other areas where it's a little bit softer. Yeah, so like back here, I really lost all those highlights back here. Just really push these out more. Yeah, wow, this is a real challenge. I mean, in terms of getting the range of value. I suspect that this area is still too light, but I feel like I'm losing a lot of the form in the other areas, so I just really want to do that. Like this one really sticks out. So you see this one? We're going to pull out this lock, and I'm going to try to, actually, let's use the charcoal pencil for this. I think if I go in and I should do a pass with the charcoal pencil, actually, because that'll help firm up, I think, a couple of the areas that just need a little bit more definition. And actually, charcoal pencil is really great for adding more texture, because actually, if you look really closely, it's hard to see in the photo, but there are like these strokes that show the roundness of the dreads. You have to look really close. They're not easy to see, but I'm going to try my best to hint at them. I don't know that they're going to be that clear in my drawing, but I'll do the best I can. Okay. Pull out some of that. Oh, and this thread, this lock. You guys see this? This one's really sticking out. See that? Like that. So we have a really firm. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference. Now that one really jumps out. This one, come on. I want this one to jump out more. It's not doing it. And this one should jump out more too. So yeah. So I'm trying to pick out, like, what do I want to stick out more? What needs a soft edge? What can be more subtle? And what needs to pop? You have to pick and choose. Here, I'm getting a little bit too excited about highlights, so I'm trying to cut that back. And yeah, like here, this, that annoying backlighting. It's going to drive me crazy. Oh, backlighting is such a pain. It's cool, but see, here's the thing. This is why, like, the reference photo bothers me, because, like, I didn't have any control over the lighting situation. And normally when I take my own photos, I set up the lighting really specifically. Like, I probably would never set up this situation, because when you have competing light sources, it's actually really hard. A lot of the times I tell people, if you don't have a ton of experience with lighting, it's better to work on drawings with a single light source, because it can get very confusing very fast if you don't know what to look for. So I'm not saying you shouldn't draw with multiple light sources. It's just, it's so much harder than that. More squinting. I think this, you know what I'm going to do? Let's just spend some time with the charcoal pencil. I feel like the charcoal pencil might be a good way for me to get in some of that texture that I was talking about earlier, and also maybe darken a couple spots. It still feels too smooth. I don't have the texture that I really think is necessary for this image. And actually, let's pull out a couple more. And here it's really textured. So, oh man, I totally blew it on that area. So I guess I need to lift more here. You know, let's go with the charcoal pencil, because here there's a little bit of texture. And here there's even more. Yeah, so maybe the charcoal pencil will help me with this. I mean, this will need a lot more work beyond what I'm going to get done in the stream. But at the very least, you guys can see the beginning, because I think that for a lot of people, it's sometimes it's the beginning of the drawing that is the most confusing. Tell me in the chat, do you guys think that's true? Like, are you more interested in seeing how a drawing starts? Or do you feel that you learn more when you look at, say, the second half, when somebody really is trying to finish it off? Me personally, I feel like I benefit more from seeing the beginning, but I know not everybody's like that. It depends on how you learn. I mean, everybody learns really differently, so it's very hard to tell sometimes. Ugh, I feel like this looks way too geometric. I don't like that. Yeah, let's do another pass of charcoal pencil. Let's see what we do with that. Because they do feel a little flat right now. I don't like that. I think they need way more texture. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit too careful. I'm not sure. It's difficult because there's all these forms. I don't want to lose track of them, but I also don't want to. It's like you just can't win. I will say, though, you guys, Angela, your hair is way more exciting than Timothy's. Timothy, you're fine, but oh, nothing's going to compete with this hair. Nothing at all. Yeah, like this one I lost. Okay, so see this one I'm bringing back? Yeah, this one has like a tightness to it. Let me see if I can bring some of that back. Might be getting a little bit thin. Let's take the eraser stick and maybe make this one a little bit bulkier. This one too, a little bit bulkier. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could just do like a whole pass just to like fuzz out. So like, especially you can really see it here. You can see the fuzziness of the hair, the texture. It's really cool. And actually, this is one I got to pull out more. Yeah, I don't want to do too much. This is one of those pieces you really can overwork. I feel like with Timothy's, if I went really detailed, it's not that I couldn't ruin it. I mean, I could definitely ruin anything at any time, but I feel like the risk of ruining his hair, I feel like it's a lot lower. I feel like here I definitely could overwork it to a really bad place if I pick too much. Let's go back to the charcoal pencil. Let's see where that goes. It's a back and forth. I mean, now that I've done some charcoal pencil, I'm feeling like I lost my highlights. So that is going to happen. But I think that's inevitable with drawing. There are things you put them back, you lose them. Put them back, you lose them. I guess what I'm doing right now, it's like a little sprinkle. You notice I'm not working in one particular area. I'm jumping around to a bunch of different spots. And that does make a big difference in terms of trying to keep things more cohesive. Yeah, here I lost a lot of articulation in this area. I think I need to go in and make it a little bit better defined. And especially, oh yeah, I totally lost this one. Okay, here we go. This one a little bit more. And there's this one back here. So let's see how that goes. All right, let's see what people are saying in the chat. Darian says, I like seeing the drawings beginning. I follow along and enjoy while at the same time seeing how it ends. And Liz is saying the beginning of a drawing is very important. For me, it's about getting a feeling of a situation to feel the emotional quality and the energy and movement in the whole scene. Very cool. Sam Angelic says, I want to see the whole thing done, but I'm the kind of person who likes to watch documentaries. I like documentaries. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I think it was on another stream. Somebody asked, what's your favorite genre of book? And I'm like, nonfiction all the way. I love it when I know that a story is real. It just feels somehow more impactful for me. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying for me, that's my perception of those documentaries. Like, there's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Catch Me If You Can. And I remember when I saw it in the theater, I didn't know it was a real story. And I was like, what? Like, it totally blew my mind when I found out about that. Gargi says, I find the beginning more helpful, but since I rarely finish my paintings, the second half is helpful too. Oh, it's a whole different set of challenges. Once you get through about 50%, it's like that's one set of things. And then finishing it is a whole other set of things. It's just, I guess from what I've seen, people seem more perplexed about the beginning than they do about the end. That's what I tend to see. And Murphy says, but the beginning of the drawing describes the artist's personality a lot, though quite abstract. Oven is saying, how can I learn to draw? Draw with me. You guys, drawing is a practice. You got to log the hours. Jordan always uses this phrase. He says, pencil mileage. He says, you need to get the mileage with a pencil or whatever it is you're drawing with in order to get better as an artist. And Ayane says, I'm with you, Clara, in that I like to see a drawing's beginning, but I also like to see how they render texture because I tend to make things too smooth. I am like that too. Like if I don't control myself, I will totally make it too smooth. I have that tendency myself, and it's something that I really have to stay on top of, because if I'm not paying attention, I will just render it to death and it will look really, really bad. And Wrigglesworth says, I often don't know when to stop, so I enjoy seeing other people make those decisions. I don't think anybody knows when to stop, except for Alex Rowe. Like I asked him once, how do you know when to finish your piece? And I'm not kidding, in that like really nice, calm Alex Rowe voice, he said, I just know. And he was so like happy. And I was like, what? For me, it's like some big life moment when I'm trying to figure out whether to stop or not. I just love that he was so happy-go-lucky about it. I think it's really funny. All right, guys, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this off stream and I'll post it on Instagram so that way you guys can see where it goes. And I'll maybe write a little bit about the specific things that I did to finish it off. But what you guys should do right now is join me in the Art Prof Discord. I will be hanging out in the Art Alongs channel. The invite link is in the video description below. Please subscribe to the Art Prof YouTube channel and join the Art Prof family. And a huge thank you to our top Patreon supporters who make it possible for us to keep all of our content 100% free and accessible to everybody. And thank you to everybody for the conversations in the chat, for giving me your ideas and your comments. I love our discussions because this really is not a lecture, you guys. This really is us in a room, hanging out as a virtual room together and seeing where things go, because we never really know, do we? Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the Discord. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.